and write checks to that, let's see what happens to you.
My brother and sister just got all their credit cards that day.
I feel, you know,
I said, cut them up.
Oh, yeah.
Or just have one.
put a $2,000 limit on it on purpose.
Oh, yeah, mine have little limits. I just use it for the internet.
Yeah, I use mine if I I gotta admit, I got a little on mine, which is my, thing I pay once a month. I enjoy a lot of shows on there, so. But other than that, unless I'm going on a trip. They say you don't need one, you can use a debit card to get hotels, but it's getting tough to do that, so.
Yep.
So we have,
It was really difficult, you know.
I feel bad for the people of California because that state's so balled up. The deficit spending for decades. I don't think it'll ever get straightened out in our lifetime. I think it'll be that way for the next 30 years. Once you get that far in, it takes a long time to get out.
You're third.
so I'm gonna go upstairs and check on something and I'll move on.
Well, I did put something in, I've never done it before.
Federal.
13 years. I've used my vehicle.
Federal government does some weird things out there too, like, okay, every year they have these ripped, roaring, snorting forest fires. I'm standing in the wind come down every year. Okay, now I realize that even if you did this, it wouldn't stop at all, but they should go in there and clean up that sagebrush out of the national forest and get them dead trees down and grind them up and sell them for wood pellets back to the East Coast and put it on their budget. It would go a long way from preventing a lot of the fires. That, and I read somewhere that they haven't built a reservoir out there since 1967. You would think that in this day and age, you build some reservoirs and you take some of that water in some place like New Orleans and them places get flooded out every year, figure a way to get it across country and dump it into them reservoirs. I mean, you know, there's gotta be a way.
And so,
Because
that's not.
what they spend in
Okay, let's pretend.
insurance for thousands of people's homes is just, it's
Maldistribution of resources.
it's crazy.
I can just
For the
wait.
price,
It's just common sense stuff to me. You know, math, you know, you can't.
and the only problem.
If you don't
is
have it,
if
you,
you've
well,
got
luckily we live up
headstone,
here, as poor as it is, we can't spend it, we don't
say,
have,
I don't
so
want that.
I just feel like, oh, can I?
probably a good thing.
Yeah, you could do that.
You know,
You
I
could
can gift it to somebody.
You can always gift it to the town.
You know, he was talking about most people on TV.
That don't have.
How many of these ships do they have decommissioned in the Navy that they
Shorey
can put people
years
on
ago,
them?
Shorey.
I mean, clean up San Francisco that way, get them off the streets where it's getting unhealthy. Get them in there where they actually have running water and, you know, that, because they're just sitting there, some of them decommissioned ships.
Very too.
All that stuff has a certain cost.
They'll eventually wind up in the scrap iron yard, might just well use them.
It's just that I've got that same problem down there.
That's my problem, I've lived up here too long.
The only thing.
We do things like that out of necessity.
There's a small footstone.
Yeah, right. What if it's someone that doesn't have anything?
Yeah, that's, right. And whoever the sexton is can transfer. Oh, God.
Oh, good, thank you.
Look,
Because this stuff.
That's the way.
I'll have to ask, I need to talk to my sister, she and I live in women's lab, so I'm gonna talk about it. That's a lot of space.
The sexton.
It's crowded.
Got so many handouts, we don't know what to do with them.
Young guy, and Jen and I will be.
18, 19.
You are adorable.
I'm looking around here, I
One of
definitely
these
feel
people
it.
is first.
Travis
Yes,
Stewart.
okay, so,
And he owns it, Stewart Properties or something maybe, I don't know, he owns something.
Yeah.
He was wonderful.
And, then he's, does he work for the town or is he independent?
I'm assuming he's independent,
Okay.
like I made the checkout to him.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do something.
Yeah, sometimes, like, where I work for the town, everything that comes into the cemetery comes to the town. So if I have a burial, a cremation for $100,
Yeah.
that goes to the town.
Yeah. So I'll have to ask the town first, just to
Yeah.
say, this is her plot,
Yeah.
what can I do?
Just transfer it to the town. And the town will, usually every town has a few. You might have a homeless veteran. Two.
It's
I got the ashes in the mail, nowhere to go. So I got into it.
Vernon, where the fire
I
department.
have 15 rooms
I
in
didn't
that
know if you,
old
did you need to go and come back?
No, we're back.
later?
So I got one room, I call it cremation.
Because we can push you up to the very end if you need to.
We're back.
Oh, sorry.
You have a call, young fella?
I was on the Henderson. I'm telling you, that sucker, that on ramp, you can't walk really tight, you know?
Just coming up Eltona.
I just drove from Augusta, we took all back roads because it was sheer ice on the way.
Vernon's here.
I'm going up to my next one, these people going by me like I just.
So,
Anyway, when I do.
which one do you want to be?
Yeah, that's what I would do, young lady.
Fire department, then the cemetery, and then.
Yes, and then we'll go through the others.
Keep calling me young lady.
Wow.
Thank you. A lot of.
This whole budget,
There might be one person in here a little older than I am.
No, we can do this.
It's a workshop, yes, and everybody's here.
All right, welcome everyone to the Tuesday, November 22nd, 2019 Town Budget Workshop for the Pittsfield Town Council. I ask that you please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. All right, so this is a budget workshop, and it's the first thing on the agenda is rules set for the workshop, and I'm going to recommend a couple of rules. One, is everybody okay if we make let's make a time that we should get out of here within reason.
6:45.
6:45, that's good.
Is that before your review?
I'm going to say, I think we should be out of here by what, 10 at the latest? When you think, 9:30?
I think sooner than that.
Oh,
8:30, you want to shoot for 8:30?
8:30.
Okay. I don't want to crowd you guys, but I don't want to be here half the night either, I know what you
We
mean.
not only will shoot for 8:30, but we'll shoot anybody that keeps us there longer.
One of the reasons why we're having extra sessions is so that we can
Right,
have
so-
shorter ones so they're more efficient.
The other rule I would ask is, can we please do the department heads that are here first? I mean, everybody's away from their houses and families and stuff, so. If everybody's all good with that, we will start with the fire department.
So the fire department is on page 25 of the councilor's book and on the copies that are available for the public. The fire department budget comes in for 2020 at $89,072. That is an increase of $7,998 or a 9.9% increase. So the fire chief is here this evening, and he always goes through all the accounts and makes them either higher or lower depending on what has taken place in the current year and the past year, as well as projects that he plans for.
Okay, Bernard, did you want to talk on your budget?
Well, I think, of course, first thing I did, I know I forgot my glasses, but I got a big print here. I went up in wages simply because,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to $1 an hour for everybody. Now, I proposed a new pay schedule that, and I don't know, is that in the packet, Catherine, that?
It originally is, but it isn't out tonight.
Okay.
So you could just tell them it's very
Okay, what I did was, I went through and, as it stands now, if you're a firefighter, no matter whether you're a brand new guy off the street, you've been there 20 years, you get the same pay. I have proposed a new hire is 12 structure. The first step is you get your structural firefighter, which means you can actually enter a building to fight fire. That's a 80+ hour course that you have to take, $12.50. Firefighter 1 and 2 are nationally recognized courses. They're usually taught together. They're 360 hours plus. plus your final, your written exam and your hands-on, which is an all-day. And I don't remember now, but there's a lot of hours you have to do between classes on the computer that you gotta take with you the next time, or you don't get to go to the next class. 13 for firefighter 1, firefighter 2, 1350, lieutenant 1450, captain 16, deputy chief 19, and chief 24. Now, somewhere in the archives here, the council voted many moons ago, probably before you were on, that the fire chief's pay would stay commensurate with the police chief's, and it never has, and I've never pushed it, and it's been a big deal, but that's back when Dick LaPlante was here.
Yeah,
when
that was
when that
definitely
happened.
before my time.
Yeah. So, but I say it never has, and it's not a big deal, but.
So can you say that again? I got up to lieutenant and then.
New
what was-
hire,
Cap-
12,
I got
struck,
that.
okay, lieutenant is 1450, captain 16,
And then deputy chief,
19,
19,
and 24.
and then 24 is chief.
This is much more reasonable than what we have now. It rewards those that go through and take the extra courses and get more abilities to fight fire.
Is that for when they respond and in training?
Responding and training, yes.
Okay. Do we pay for the training, for testing or anything like that?
Yes. What we try to do, the last 2 or 3 courses we put on for structural, hasn't cost, the only thing it's cost us what we fed them at lunchtime. Because we've done our own teaching, so we haven't had to hire, instructors. One of the problems with the firefighter 1 and 2 is that there's no way, if you miss something happens and you miss a class, it's nearly impossible to make that up. And a lot of people just won't start it for that reason. They just, get sick and miss it. When we did it here, we did it 1 weekend a month and 2 Thursday nights,
And how many hours is it, Bernie?
360 plus.
Wow.
And if you do any the problem with that course is that there's no hands-on to speak of in it. And it's really not a good course. But somebody at echelons above reality has decided that's the way to train people.
So 360 hours of firefighting with no hands-on?
Very little
Very little
hands-on.
hands-on.
We spent probably another 100 hours with people doing hands-on. We took 21 people to the end test, brought 21 graduates. There was another course going on in Waldo County. They sent them home after the 3rd station because they had all plunked. You plunk 2 stations and go back and redo them. They all plunked the 3 stations and we sent them home. So. But the other problem with that course is that it takes a number of people in order to put it on. You can't put it on with 2 or 3 people. The ideal class is in 20 or more. With the structural, you can do it with a smaller class. Because what we do with that is there's a lot of guys that will all run back through that again, or I'll do this piece of it again, and so we get to
360 hours, for a volunteer position is a lot of time commitment.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sure.
We started the Thursday after the first of the year, and we took our end test the last day of June.
This line item, the 40,000, does that include all of these changes? Or is this gonna be in the
No.
wage stuff that you were talking about
All
that's
of
separate of
that
that?
includes all of his changes because they were separate, because
Okay.
they're on
Okay.
call.
Okay.
And they're paid for some training, most of their training, but not all training.
How many certified firefighters do we have right now?
How many?
How many certified firefighters do we have in the department right now?
Oh, let me find the list here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
14?
14.
And do you have any in training now?
We finished up a class last fall and we have 2 new people that come spring, we probably will do it because they got a couple in Detroit. Harlan's got 2 or 3 new guys. And again, even for the structural class, you need about 10 to make it work very well.
What is the
like the minimum that you need to have a viable
Vital
department?
force, yeah.
What's the minimum that you need to have a viable department?
Well, in order to fight fire, depending on who you believe and how you read you gotta have 11 people on the scene to start fighting fire, which isn't gonna happen, doesn't happen in full-time departments.
I was gonna say, then you need every single person there.
But as a minimum, you should have 4 people, because there's a 2 in, 2 out rule, which is an OSHA rule.
Yeah.
It says there needs to be 2 people there in case something happens to go in. And one of those can be the pump operator if they're a qualified firefighter. So, we roll out of here, it's kind of interesting, I did some statistical stuff. And our average call is 6.36 hours since July. So I went back and took the last 20. The average was 6.4. So that holds pretty true. I mean, a lot of calls are 1 tonight. I don't know, I think there was 6 of us who went out to that accident tonight. Middle of the night we get a lot of calls to assist SBA, cardiac stuff. A lot of guys don't want to do EMS, so we get 2 or 3. A lot of calls, I'm the only one that goes. Got a CO monitor going off in the middle of the daytime, people don't need to leave work for that. So that kind of helps drag the average down some.
How many calls, do you do, in the past year?
We are at 190 right now for this year.
Is that average?
That's pretty average, yeah. We've run between, I think 190, for the last 6 years, I think we've went from like 198 to 262. And 262 was the year we had, in 17, when we had we ran, 3 or 4 crews all day for the windstorm.
So there's an increase of $7,998. Is that encompassed in the salary part, or were there other items that increased from year on year?
5,000 was in the salaries to cover that.
Right.
And then there
Of course,
were
that puts the FICA up.
FICA up,
Okay.
yes.
So I would just kind of include that all in.
Workers'
Salary.
comp, I don't think that'll have any effect on that. I don't know that.
Yeah, you were under budget, so I left
Yeah.
it the same.
Yeah.
The increase is
I
then
increased the
PP.
travel budget because it's unrealistic. We've spent more than that for the last 10 years. $150 don't go very far.
How much how much do you need for travel? Like, is this 2,600 going to cover it? If you
I'm trying to think how much it was last year and I can't remember. But that'll be real close. That'll be close to it. I've got some guys that want to start taking that firefighter 1 course, and they're starting to offer it as modules at some of the, like the school in Waterville in the fall and spring. The one in Orono is starting to offer it, so they can take it in modules,
Parts
rather
and
than
pieces and stuff.
rather than all dedicated. Those have got pricey because the price of instructors and the price of insurance on those places. The price of insurance on the training facility is gone. We used to go take a weekend course for $25, and now a lot of them are $500. I looked at one the other day. I thought I'd take was a fire investigators course put on by NFPA. Course was free. Well, that's a good deal. That's usually. But in order to take the N test, it's going to cost you $350, and it costs $250 per book.
So that's
So the free was $600. When you get down, it was $600 for that free course.
Free to take the course, not free to pass.
Well, you could go take the course, you just wouldn't come out of it. You wouldn't come out of it with a certificate. So when you went to court with it, they'd say, "Well, what are you condemned to?" "Well, where's your certificate?" That's the problem. A lot of this stuff today is you got to be able to defend yourself in court. What else did I jump up here?
So your uniforms went down 3,000, while PPE equipment went up 3,000.
Right, but those were kind of, we buy some uniform stuff, but PPE stuff is going every day. A pair of rubber boots, that 2 years ago was $105, now are $185. And turnout helmets, we are at a point where we're gonna have to start looking at replacing all our helmets. Our helmets are all 11 years old. If they break, no fixing them, because they're 2 iterations of it. So if you break, even if you break the face shield on it, they call that a repair.
So, should we be looking at like replacing half of them next year and half the year after, or just
Yeah.
go right straight?
Well,
through
I'm
it?
gonna replace them as they break them.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy half a dozen, put them on the shelf, because when you break it, you need a new one right
Yeah,
now.
and is that
Yes.
covered under,
Yes. Yeah,
equipment or
that
PPE?
was, on the PPE.
Okay.
Because they just, again, those were, 2 years ago, those were $200 a piece, now they're $275. And that's for, I'm not talking about fancy ones, I'm talking about,
Basic.
well, no, basic ones I don't believe are a good buy. I tried to buy middle of the road ones, and I found that just works better than buying low end, and we definitely don't need a leather one at $700 or $800 a piece.
Is $250 for gasoline reasonable?
We don't use much gas. The only thing is that just small engines about the only thing, because now all our trucks are diesel. So we don't, we just don't use a lot of, all those. And we've started to, and we're going to continue to buy the unleaded over here for our small stuff. It just
I know.
works so much better.
I find that really
Yeah.
good in the
Yeah.
small engines, yeah.
Well, especially in mixed fuel.
Yeah.
It doesn't get all gummed up like
Yeah.
alcohol. Alcohol and motor oil don't work together when they set.
Last year I think we talked about the fact that you utilize your personal vehicle. Is that captured in here somewhere?
That's where that's why I jumped that up to the 2,000. That was about
Where?
the under mileage.
That's one of the reasons why
Travel.
he's increasing it, as well as
Under travel, yeah. there's not
expected
called
more
mileage,
people
called
will go
travel.
to classes.
Okay,
Make
travel.
it
Let's say
reimbursed.
training, that's why I was thinking that was for people to go to training, okay.
I break the mileage into two. One is for all these meetings that,
You have to go to the.
well, do you have to go to them? No, but if you don't, and they bring something up that's idiotic and you aren't there, you live with it.
Mhm.
And at least you get a chance to voice your opinion, or you can sometimes get on these committees to maybe steer it a little different direction.
And does the fire department, I think I asked about this last year too, does the fire department do any community awareness training or presentations about emergency preparedness or
We were
anything
at,
like
we
that?
asked, I've done a couple, one, I can't remember the name of the Sun Club, I went up there to MCI and did, up to the library and did. Remember the name of that, Holly?
Did you just for the library staff thing last
No,
year?
there was a whole,
Oh, for the,
was it the Arts Club? No, not the Arts, I don't remember what it was.
we did a community read that we did.
Yeah, but there was 25 ladies in there that I went in one morning and talked to about fire extinguishers and stuff.
It could be the senior citizen.
No, it
club.
wasn't senior citizens, no. No, senior citizens won't let me come because I won't go play cards with them. They asked me one day why I didn't come. I said, I don't have time. I'm too busy. I mean, if they asked, I would go. We go to the schools this year. We didn't go to the school, the little school down here, because Kyle King's son is down there. Kyle belongs to Burnham, and he wanted to take their truck up, and that was fine because I had not going that day.
Okay.
But one of the things that I'm looking at is this targeted something, that thing that comes in the mail, that TTM out of Rockland, where they send a flyer to every mailbox.
Oh, targeted
And,
mailboxes.
yeah, and that's relatively inexpensive for that kind of coverage. So I called down, talked to the guy once, and I can call him back and see where, put out something on, put your numbers on the mailbox. We got called the other night over on Noble Court, and there's a house over there that I was not aware even existed. It's in behind two other houses. So I'm looking for, there's no such number here, and this woman comes out and says, oh, it's in here.
Oh, the flames coming out of the windows.
then you know where it is.
So,
Yeah.
116 Noble Court.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that, because if you have two houses on a driveway, it has
It's
to
not
have.
on, not
It's
too
not-
on the
back.
drive.
It's just behind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how they could get in there because they don't have clearance, nothing, anywhere around it, but that's a different story. You know, the big expense on this is the increase in wages.
Yeah.
And I have, you know, if that's a little too rich for everybody's blood, I've got a couple other proposals for.
No, we have to attract people and help those that work
Well,
for
and
us.
I'm not sure that money will attract people. One of the things that's scaring people is the hours that are required for training.
I hear that a lot from people.
Initial training is just, that's why we try to put the structural firefighter one on. It's, you know, again, it's 80 hours plus. It has to be a minimum of 80 hours. And by the time you do any hands-on with it, it gets to be more than that. But the guys enjoy the hands-on. It's the classroom stuff that, you know, one of the things that with that firefighter one, they spend 8 hours telling you how alarms work, but we don't give a damn how Chicago gets their alarms. I could care less. We have no control over that anymore. The only thing we can hope is when they hit the buzzer that they've got some good information to give us. Good location and what's going on. We have no control over that. So spending time on that is a waste of time.
How do the proposed wage increases compare to other towns?
You know, I don't know. I know that Burnham just went to paying $12 and they hadn't been paying anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that piece of homework. I didn't even think about it.
Sorry, Bernie, next year.
I didn't even think about it.
Okay.
I think that we need to, yeah, I think that definitely has got to be looked at, because you hear every once in a while about volunteer departments shutting down because they can't get the volunteers and all that, and really they haven't pushed that up for years.
Well,
So, I mean,
and one of the things that has to be thought about, and you know, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know what's going to happen, but departments like ours are going to have some couple of full-time day people.
Well, January 1st, 2020, $12 becomes the state minimum wage.
Right.
And then after that, it gets tied to the consumer price index, so it's gonna go up after that.
You know, it doesn't automatically go up
So
after
even
that
though
like
this
they
is
wanted
an
to.
increase, it's really just maintaining.
it's maintaining.
Well, that's the $12 piece,
It's
yeah.
getting us to that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If they can, like you said, if they can make that training a lot easier, that's going to attract more people. Because I talked to the guys from Heartland and St. Albans and different places, and that's 90% of it, isn't it? Is the training
Well,
hours.
it's a lot of,
A lot of time away from your family, it's a lot.
well, and
Jobs.
again, the problem is that if you miss a class,
Yeah.
how do you make it up? Now, with the smaller classes, you know, usually one of the instructors will get with them and go through the class and then they get a chance to do their hands-on with it. But when you're going through that, you know, doing a 16-hour weekend, it's pretty hard to make that class up if you miss it.
So Bernard, as I mentioned previously, I think this is a good step forward to have the structures set up.
Okay.
I'm all good with this budget if you guys are.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Bernie while we got him right here? Thank you, Bernie, for coming in and doing that.
Okay, I'll go
And I
right
agree, it's absolutely got to be done, so. All those in favor of the fire department budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the fire department passes as written. Budget passes as written. Why don't we get down to cemeteries next?
So for the cemetery budget, cemeteries are on page 31 in the book, or the handout. The cemetery budget comes in at $50,143. It was a 0% increase. Workers' comp is down, so that was helpful in that budget. And then Pete went through and made some changes throughout the budget. And Mr. Snow is here this evening to answer any questions.
Mr. Snow, you want to give us a brief,
Yeah.
anything you want to discuss?
Just so I'm up to date, it's $12 an hour to January 1st.
I was
If
gonna
you
say.
Say, all right,
Might have to do.
Might have to do some figuring there because last 6 years, I've always hired fire department people. And I've had the same people, and great work. They may take off for fire if it's 2 hours, it goes on their time, not on the cemetery time. So that's the one adjustment.
So as a reminder, the pay increases for all departments except for the fire department, which is on call, is in another account because of a number of reasons. So that will be increased to a certain amount once we decide on the approach we're going to use.
What was it, unallocated expenses or something?
Yeah, it's an unclassified expenses.
Okay. The only thing, if you look at the bottom, it would be 25-05, contracts and rentals. Again, where it says flowers for cemetery, $700. I think there's only 2 cemeteries in the state of Maine. One in Portland and us that has trust funds that were bought years ago. And we always have to have flowers in them before before Memorial Day. And usually I can get out of there for $600 for flowers from Boynton's, and they're hardy ones. If I can get one out of someone's dooryard, they don't last. And then it's my significant other, and I put them in on a Sunday or a Saturday. Because that's my guys my guys that I have are great workers.
They cut things,
But
they
they're
don't
not,
cut things.
yeah.
Botanists, they're not.
And they're good workers, but I
They didn't
don't
take
think
botany
they're
in
going
high-
to
they
the
didn't take botany in high
botany
school, no.
agricultural area right off.
We want the flowers to be left.
Yeah, and this year, we got away with not having a lot of different insects. And I don't like to use a powder or a spray, I don't. So that was the only,
Are you planting annuals like petunias and something that'll flower all summer long, or?
on these trust funds,
Geraniums
we want geraniums. This is what they
That's the
list.
flower they want.
That's what they want on these trust funds,
Okay.
except for 2 that cost me $50. I have to put silk flowers on them. And they last. I don't have to water them or anything. So they last. And so those are the only 2 things. The other items, running equipment for graves. This year I only had 4 full. So I don't need a backhoe. That's because people are going more to cremations. I had 24 burials, 20 cremations, and 4. And I will put a plug in for a young man from town. In fact, I had as a student. He rented us his machines, Brent Newhouse. And that cost, but that's my biggest cost, and probably this isn't the place where this should be, is going to be under the capital budget. And I'm going to explain to you why.
I thought we had put something in the
did.
budget last year. We were talking about you having your own backhoe so that you didn't have to.
I would like to,
borrow
but I have another request for 2. One is we're going to have to develop Route 2 Cemetery. And I think I put in $3,500 to $5,000 for that. Because I'm having people that want to go out there to be buried. And that's reasonable. I can rent a tractor from Brent Newhouse for $450. I've got enough seed right now, and a mulch hay that I bought a bunch of mulch hay from the Amish heading towards Heartland, which was very reasonable. And I put in for a truck. For the first 2 years, I used that little Blue Ranger that was dangerous. Then I've used my vehicle every single day.
I kept thinking that danger.
Every day.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that when we said that you
I,
had your own
I'm
I put in for 30,000. I went and got 4 bids. It's just mine's mine now. It finally is paid for. But I used my GMC for 3 years, and I've used this truck. This will be the 6th year.
Where'd you get a bid on?
I went up here to Bonnie. I went over to Adam Friend. Oh, I can't. I went to, is it Lee? Lee, and then I said, well, I'm gonna try, over to Jerry's, Corinna. And it went from 9,000 to 29,000. The three, one was up here for 19 used. One from Adam Friend was 29,000 for Toyota like mine, 20,000 miles. And Lee was basically the same, a Tacoma like mine for roughly 22,000. But I didn't know about the liability, but I have to use my truck to haul stone because I can't get the town truck in May and June because they got one thing, patching.
Yeah.
And when I have to go out to Route 2, I have to haul, I put everything in my truck, get the trailer, and go out. And it takes us, well, I'm down to one man now, just one man, and we have to work our butts off to keep all 5 cemeteries looking good. And I think that's why my cost it kind of broke even this year. But it takes us 3.5 days to mow and trim the one off Pelto. 3.5 days. That's with no funerals, nothing. The weather's gonna be perfect. And I am working on something, I am told Catherine to come up, I'm trying to get my cemetery committee together to come up with a set of rules that I can get these people to follow when I retire. Because it's elderly people that come down and they put plastic flowers out because they can't come down and water them every day. And when you've got 20 pieces of plastic flower around one grave, we have to take them off. You gotta bend over and take them off, weed whack them, put them back on. I'm 73 and I've started to slow down.
Is it possible to put like a mulch down and not have grass right where they want to put like if there's things like that, can you approach them?
Some of
and
them
tell
are doing it, but
This is how we're gonna manage it, we're gonna put a weed barrier down, we're gonna put some mulch down, and then you can put your flowers on that
Yeah,
section,
that's
like
one.
a mat or something.
Some
Or even
people-
pieces of AstroTurf that look like grass.
Some people are putting
Something
rocks
like
and I'm
that.
trying to tell them no, because we hit one of those rocks and you catch one on your ankle and we're wearing safety glasses. And so
Well, in
that's,
Ireland, they have like the headstone, and then they have a little, like a built up section, and they fill it with stone.
Yeah.
But they have like a little delineated section where the
It's raised.
person is, and it's raised up, and that's where they can put things.
come on down someday down that cemetery and see how many.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's just, and then I'm going,
Yeah.
you get we always get a northeast wind. And they're everywhere. And I'm going, okay, good, I know where that one's going. So that's what I'm trying to work on, is getting a set of rules from the old sections that we can make people, but I'm somewhat conservative. I think we can do that again with this budget. And
What was the change in this one?
Nothing.
Remember? No change.
nothing.
In the
Yeah.
bottom line, 0,
Bottom
but
line,
changes in the account.
Yeah.
Workers' comp is way down.
Right.
And the proposal for the truck is in the
Capital
Capital
budget,
Yeah,
yeah.
Plus
as well
the-
as Powers
Yeah,
Cemetery.
plus our
Yeah.
cemetery. And, well, it'll be from April till, well, I would have buried this week if we wouldn't have had this, but till the 1st of November, then I think I can get it into the garage. I just don't want, I should say this about the other departments, yes, I should. I don't want them using it and taking the care of it that I would take care, because I'm gonna take great care of it. And there's an extra place up there that we could pull a battery out and store it.
Well, it has a little bit lighter duty with you than it would with
Oh,
the
yes.
highway department.
Right.
So whatever investments needed in the vehicle there,
Yeah.
it would hold its value to. a
Nothing,
little bit.
nothing against
Yeah.
anybody, but taking care of things, and my father was that way, taking care of things at 73 versus 23 is a whole different story.
But I will comment that the fire department employees I use are excellent, excellent, and dependable.
Yeah.
As fire department, you would have to be.
And I will say that I believe that we need to look when we get to the capital budget, we need to look very hard at that truck, because when Pete retires, we should have a vehicle to go down there for that cemetery to use, not their own
You should
personal
have it now,
vehicle.
so he's not using his
Yeah.
But I
personal
mean,
vehicle, that's.
we get it set up now so that when he does retire, we'll just keep
That's
right on.
3.5
Be
years.
in there.
My wife will have 40 years of teaching,
Yeah.
and that's when I moved to
There's a
Greenville.
plan.
Yeah.
Back to Greenville.
You want to get that
Is
straight
that,
around
is
this
that
year.
gonna be out of the, is there a trust account that,
We're using a trust account to pay for the entire cemetery budget, but I didn't put the,
for the capital improve for the truck?
yeah, I did have it for the powers, and I'll have to check to see if we did it for the truck. I
Okay.
can check that.
Because it would be under,
We have to be
because there's
careful
so
we don't
many
get too
different
carried
accounts
away.
under that cemetery fund.
Really?
Yeah, it should,
Yeah.
it should come out.
I
of
know you
that.
can't touch the
The
principal.
funding's,
Yes,
the funding's there
Want it to
though,
last
and it's
for
something
14
that's,
years.
you know, if you get 15 years out of the truck, you know, you divide that out over the cost, if you take that and you allocate it over the 15 years of the account, then it's a minimal amount that's coming out
Coming
each
out,
year for that, so
And-
I think that's totally doable.
Yeah, because me trying to get the town truck, the ton
shouldn't
truck
have
is just,
to.
Too many projects going in the summertime for stuff like
We
that.
Yeah.
used
I
to be
mean,
able to,
'cause I
but
have-
now we
I
can't.
think I had 8 big stones that fell down this year. And I have to use a block of tackle to come along to hook onto my truck.
Yeah.
Because the backhoe that the town has
Mhm.
is not great, it just shakes constantly.
Yeah,
And I don't wanna have to pay $8,000 for stone.
no, that wouldn't be bad.
No.
So,
Did you want to?
Yes, so we were all set. We did use the cemetery funds for the mower and the powers expansion in the truck.
Okay, so it'll be a pass-through when it
All
comes
right.
down to budget
Yes.
time.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, folks.
that's good.
We just have to be careful we don't do that again.
I'm good with this.
Yeah, I'm all good with the cemetery budget as it's written, Pete. Anybody else? Everybody else got any questions or no? Okay. All those in favor of the cemetery budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the budget passes. Thank you for coming in, Pete.
Thank you, I hate to run.
No.
I'm not gonna run.
No, don't run.
Kind of mosey out of here.
Mosey.
Thank you.
And for more students.
Next budget would be the library budget.
So the library budget is on page, flip right there, 37. And the library budget comes in at $205,618, which is an increase of $6,613, or a 3.3% increase. And this budget is like all the other budgets except for fire department. The pay increases, if there are some, which I believe there will be, to be determined, are in another account. So this is operations.
Can I say something too? I know there'll be another count, but I mistakenly gave myself a really big raise. So under librarian, it says 45,000 because that's what Lynn's was going to be, and that's not what mine is. So that number I know will be lower. And I did put under equipment books at 2020, I did put the 5,000 back that was taken out last year.
So as Lynn had done, Holly has gone through and rearranged the budget based upon the costs for all the items, and has a comprehensive list of the contractual supplies and building maintenance, which is good.
Pete, did you have a question?
I do. I have a question on that building maintenance. Because I see that it's 21,500 and last year it was 10,600 and something. So why the huge jump?
21,000 under building maintenance?
Yeah, under the contractual, sorry, contractual.
Oh, gotcha. That was actually because of the cleaning. That 11,000, so that wasn't in there last year, and then it had to be put back in because the town was gonna hire a maintenance person for all departments, and that did not happen. So that money had to go back in the budget. So we're actually spending that right now.
Because you didn't spend it last year, because you couldn't, because
Well,
it
no.
wasn't hired.
Well, we,
No,
We-
we had to hire-
We set the money aside for it, but we never hired the
Cool.
full-time person.
we ended up, that was one of the items that was cut at the meeting in January.
Mhm.
So that had to be fit back into the library budget. And some monies did go back into it, as well as municipal building.
There's building maintenance and services on account 1515. That is separate than other contractual items.
Yes, it's been set up, so the things that are really on the building maintenance or plant are in one account, and then contractual is everything else. Now,
that would be the
in your
whole
in
services.
your mind and other people's mind, you know, you can look at some of these things and say, hey, that's building type things, they could
Well,
be in
that's
the
what I was
separate.
wondering about the HVAC, why it wasn't up
Yeah.
with the building part.
So
That's what,
two different places.
fire extinguisher, inspection maintenance, I think of that as building maintenance, because it's a necessary part of the building, the elevator service. It's just a matter of where it is that threw me off, why there was two different accounts for it.
And I think also under building maintenance services, the 1515, like the HVAC repairs, 500, that's if we need them, and that's why that is
Okay,
there,
that's
and
just
not under
a-
contract.
If we need
With
it.
the, under 1515, Holly, the paint repair storm windows, the 9,000, is that an annual or is that?
No,
That's the increase.
yeah, and that's, I mean, every 5, 10 years, it kind of depends. And needed it this year, but we actually couldn't find anyone to do it.
Really?
And the
Okay.
amount, the quote that we had had from the year before was a little over 4,000. And actually business is no longer in business, and now I understand why, because
Yeah.
it's not, it costs at least that 9,000. So that's why it wasn't done this year.
Do they come down?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good,
It's a big job.
it is a big job, but it's also a job they can do inside, which is nice for rainy days, but.
So this had gone out to quote, to get, as a request for proposals, and came back at a rather outrageous amount of money. So we weren't able to go forward with it. So I'm gonna try it again.
Might get better, might get better.
Was the proposal around $9,000?
For just to do that part, because originally I actually put the, to repair the cracks in the ceiling,
Yeah.
the upper level library also. And so the entire quote was like $40,000.
Okay.
And so, and the gentleman thought that there was lead paint on the windows, but there is not. So he's like, okay, then it could be quite a bit less, but even less, it was still a huge amount. So yes, so it should be around 9,000,
Okay.
at least it was.
Is there any income that comes into the library as far as because they have registration cards, right? Library cards that we get, is there any income that comes to that?
So we do get money from Burnham, Detroit, and Palmyra. For Burnham and Detroit, patrons actually have to pay first, so there's $25 for a single or $50 for a family. And then their town reimburses them. Palmyra, we actually just send a bill to them, so they don't have to pay anything outright. So we do get some. I honestly do not have that number with me of what we get for income. It's not a huge number, but it's a few thousand.
But there's nothing for residents, people in the town.
Their taxes are paid for it. So they're not paying anything, but their taxes are.
So through the third quarter, the revenue that was realized by the library was $1,884. And that's through September. And so I assume, as in the past years, you'll get some extra payments coming in
Yeah,
in
and
December.
I won't bill Palmyra until
Yeah.
the first week of December for the rest of theirs.
So should we, if we're setting aside 9,000, should we look at this window issue as we are going to tackle 25% of the windows every year over a 4-year period?
That much.
Or something like that? Like, my grandfather used to paint, he had a huge house, he used to paint one side a year. And then he'd get around, and then on the off years, he'd do a roof on this side, and then, just because it was such a big building.
Right.
On the lake, it had a lot of sun damage and water damage, and and that's just, it made it manageable, and to do just a little bit of it. So is this like a big enough project to say, all right, we're gonna spend $2,000 every year, and we're gonna have someone come in and do 8 windows or 6
But that's the
windows.
problem, who's gonna come in and do it? And that's the big thing, is that I couldn't find anybody. So we first had it small, and then we made the project bigger, hoping we'd get other bids, and we still got one bid.
And it was a big one.
Yeah.
So what kind of company does this? Is it a window company or?
And a company that they work on old buildings and historic buildings, and that's the other thing, is historic tends to have money signs.
Yeah.
Can we get a bid from the people that did the windows for the painting for the
Depot?
depot?
Oh, okay.
Would that be a company that we could work with?
Well, we
That would
sent them a
kinda do
thing
that?
though, we did tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sent a bid out, a sheet out just saying, would you like to bid on this, and they didn't even bid on it.
Yeah. Sometimes if it's like a small job that they know that they can do inside, it might be something that they can do early in the season before they have outside work, or in between, they can fit it in between bigger jobs or something like that. So sometimes having a big project bid out gets you better pricing, but other times it gives people more flexibility if it's a small piecemeal type thing.
Well, and maybe too, I could advertise it much earlier, like in the winter, and just say,
Yeah.
well, we want it done by this date, many months later. So maybe if we do that we could actually get more bids.
Yeah.
Could advertise it like the end of February, 1st of March.
Right, yeah.
That's when a lot of these contractors start looking at
Yeah.
things.
It is a good time for most bids.
Yeah.
So is there any other way to bring in income to the library that hasn't been utilized? Because if we're bringing in $1,000, but the budget's $200,000, that's,
And it won't be 200,000, it'll be less than
No, but
200,000
I'm
by
just-
the time
I'm
we get
just-
salaries.
I'm just saying that as just throwing that out there.
Well, and the Friends
Is there
help
a way to-
considerably. The Friends actually help pay for some of these events. They paid for some of those. They paid for all the flowers that are out front, all the gardening, the landscape, actually the clearing of the sidewalks they're paying for. So they pay for that part.
No, but I mean, is there anything internal to the library, like, there's people that hold functions there, is there a way to,
Or is it rented out, or is it a community
No, it's a
space?
community
it's
space.
a community space?
Which, it goes back to the discussion that we had about the pool. Like, do we want to have all these free things available for people in town? They're paying for it, they just don't realize they're paying for it because it's coming out of their tax bill, versus having to rent the hall every time they book a hall or pay a fee.
But it's not like, we don't let people have parties or anything there.
No, I know.
Like, the arts club
Right.
uses it, and the garden club,
Yeah.
people that are contributing to the community. So, it's not,
My,
if you want to have it for parties or something, that's something we can look into.
I didn't mean parties, I just mean, because you must have business meetings, or functions there, or the Republican Party, I think, meets there
Yeah.
some nights, right?
Yep. they meet there once a month.
I mean, the community room is used, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to book time there, actually, some days.
I was just throwing it out there to,
Yeah.
if there's
Ideas.
any other way to help start generating income to.
All right, if we start charging fees to use the library, we're gonna wait until Pete's sitting over here, and then
Well,
give
you
him
know-
his
I
idea.
could understand,
If you know something
okay,
new-
let's say an outfit from Dexter wants to come down and do something.
Yeah.
And they rent that, because that is a beautiful building. I mean, there's absolutely no question about it. And you could charge them a certain amount. Word would get out, geez, they're pretty accommodating. Now, I realize, like Howard says, that place is booked right up. But, I mean, is that kind of like you're thinking about maybe?
Well, it was along that lines, but also just to bring up the fact that if you watch the news tonight, Ellsworth was upping their increases on their library cards for residents and non-residents. So I mean.
But for residents, I
but
don't
is
think you
there-
should be.
Is there like computer use, does that get charged?
No.
There's nothing for that, just people come in and use the computer?
Mhm. Yep, if you can get one. Right. Although it's much easier now because people are using their phones.
But yeah, that was along the lines of what I was thinking, Tim, is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd go a long way to, and I realize that it doesn't happen very often, but I think if that did happen, I could see where the word would get out, gee, because I know, I've been there, and that thing is beautiful, and it would, but I mean, the chances of it happening a lot aren't great, but you never know. That could be an inn down the road. Certainly wouldn't hurt the librarian, it would help them, for out-of-town type things that aren't covered in that area. Because a lot of towns don't have that.
Is there any policies in place right now for that?
There is a policy in place that we won't charge and that businesses can't like sell anything, they can't charge for anything, you can't have a class where you're gonna charge people. I can't remember everything else about it. And it's something that, we can discuss it, but it's definitely something that the board of trustees need to be a part of, not just.
No, I was just asking the question because you're here. I don't know.
Absolutely. You should be in the library. I'll show you around, talk some more.
Is there a way to do something like, if they wanted to charge, they have to give a certain percentage of their fees?
So some people give money, first of all, some groups give money anyway.
Right, yeah.
Because they're very grateful. And actually we have authors that come that will give a percentage of whatever they do sell their books there. If an author is coming, we don't pay for them. But they also give us a percentage of their book sales, so there is that.
I'm just curious, I don't know how Newport runs it, but I know they're advertising like a million different things happening for the craft season coming up. And like the wreath one was really an attractive one to me. It's $25 fee to participate in it, which I understand because you have to have all of the supplies, but I wonder if they have to give a percentage of that fee to the
Actually,
library.
Newport charges to have their room.
Do they?
If anyone, yes, because the cultural center is not just a ton, that's actually not a fully ton.
No, I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
So they do charge for people to use the room.
Because it would be a cool idea to do something like that if somebody wanted to. We don't have a lot of space in Pittsfield to be able to hold events like that. So if I wanted to host one of those and charge a fee, then a percentage of my fee could go to the library.
It's not that big a building, like, it's not that big of a room either. The
Yeah,
community
legally,
room.
only
It's
it
like
seats 35 people.
35 people, and that's full. So it's, I mean, you're not, I think there would be a limited, audience for that, as far as doing that. But yeah.
All right, folks, anybody?
Almost everything in this is either contract stuff or like electricity, heating, things like that. Maintaining, maintenance.
Fixed costs.
Yeah, most of it. The only thing that's not is like the books and the, the books. And after just plucking $5,000 out of their budget last year, I don't wanna change that. I think it should stay as it is.
All right. Anybody, any other questions or comments to the library budget?
Do you have anybody in mind for the cleaning?
That's really not up to.
Yeah, we have to have a company that's certified with a bond. You know, in the olden days, you could just have somebody come in and clean, but now they have to have certain types of insurances and a bond and everything. So we have been out to bid before and gotten outrageous prices for the library and town office, 3 or 4 times what we pay. And so now we have a set list of requirements, and we require that the company do these items, and we have an excellent cleaner now. At the lowest price that we can get.
I just wanted to make sure that 11,000 was truly what was going to cover what we need.
It will cover it,
Okay.
barely, but it covers it.
Yeah.
It's very tight.
All right, folks, any other questions concerning the library budget? No? Okay, not hearing any, since you're ready to vote, all those in favor of the library budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay? Ayes have it, and the library budget passes. I realize that, you know, it looks a little steep, but like she said, 90% of the stuff is fixed cost. I mean, there's just no getting around it. You don't have any control over heating, what they charge for gallons for heating and things of that nature, so electricity.
Although we did get some LED lights, so
Yeah.
at least trying to.
We're trying to.
You did, yes, you did better than the town office. We didn't qualify,
That's right.
but we did the first time, so that's good.
Well, thank you.
Historical building too.
That's
So
the other
is
thing,
there-
being an old building, man.
Is there grant opportunities for like maintenance, like the window part of things and stuff like that?
Well, replacing them, there might be. Like, we had someone
You
that
did,
did that before.
yes. You
Yeah,
had a
with
big
the
grant
grants.
of $10,000
Yeah.
with the windows.
So we can look again.
So we had a $10,000 to replace windows, and now
Yes.
we're looking at $9,000 just to paint and caulk and seal them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a number of years ago.
Maybe we should just write a grant and replace them.
I mean, well, it was a company that rebuilt them, like they rebuilt all the windows and they were in Dexter, Dover, so we can still keep trying, always.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That fell into your, conversation, I
You wanna go street lights?
think.
All right, very good.
I'm gonna go ahead and use that.
How many cycle it starts? Like February?
So do we want to take a little break or?
Take a 5-minute break, couple minute break. I'm gonna go use the
3
restroom.
minutes, 3 minutes.
Are we doing street lights?
Street lights will be next.
So I'm Holly. Nice, so you're the new counselor? Also, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So we're open 10 to 6, Monday to Friday, and 10 to 1 on Saturday.
So we'll have street lights, airport,
No.
recreation, water and sewer.
She knows my son well.
That was a nice Windows grant, that was a long time.
That's why I know a lot
It
of
was
the costs.
before the actual library
But it
expansion
is going to be
project, right before.
income to try and offset the
We
cost.
sort of added
And
it in
honestly,
there.
we used to have more, what I really want to do is I want Burnham and Detroit forget it, don't want to do it, but Burnham, they used to let their people come in and then we build them. But I think they probably spend more money, because I think more people were apt to come in, it's like, awesome, I don't have to pay it out, right? But that's not happening more, but yeah, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. We do have a big budget.
Necessary one, unfortunately. Well, half of it.
That I feel like is my one major headache, because it's,
Well,
my house is
everything
only
changes when
15 years
something's
old, so I don't.
historic.
What's that?
Everything changes when something's historical, so there's easy thing. All of the rules.
Okay, I'm ready.
Don't worry about it. We have a commercial property. and a
Street lights, the next one.
All right, very good. We're on to street lights, which are on page 26. And the street light budget has come in at $62,892. This is an increase of $2,008, or 3.3% increase.
Is that just because of the electricity rate increases, or?
We're just projecting in the consortium that we're in for main power and options, they're estimating an increase no matter what we do. If we sign up for like 2 year or 3 years, or go to the regular off the contracts and onto the regular standard. It's going to be increased no matter what we do.
And, you know, we've still got that, study that was.
That study, which we did the very basics, now we have to do the really detailed part, and then we have to do all the contracts, so it's gonna be a while.
Okay.
But definitely I've asked Michael to put together a timeline on that, what we project, so that would be helpful.
Again, don't have a lot of wiggle room in that either.
How much we can do.
No. Anybody have questions, councils, anybody, future councils in the audience?
You really can't do much about what they charge you.
All the lights come on automatically?
Yes, yes.
Do they have sensors on them, or are they on timers?
I don't know.
I
They
think,
come on as it gets darker, and it seems reasonable. There's some that flicker, so we call them in the process for that.
I would think there'd be
Speaking of
sensors,
streetlights,
because otherwise, if they
library
were on
streets,
timers, it could be pitch black at 5 o'clock, except for 6, it's not coming on till.
Well, it just depends on, yeah, it wouldn't make any sense for timers. Okay, never mind.
All right, so that's the street light budget.
Okay. Questions or comments on the street light budget?
There is a study being done, right? I thought.
Yes, yes. But with all the steps and everything involved, and a request for proposals and negotiation and contracts, it will be a while before it takes place. So we got to budget the regular budget.
Oh, yeah.
And what we got for figures was just an estimate based upon, it was very preliminary.
With the fixing of the lights, you're saying 1 to 2 calls, including parts? Is that average?
That's for the traffic lights downtown.
Just the traffic?
Just the traffic lights, yes, because we're responsible, once MDOT came in and changed over the system that was there, which was very low it wasn't high enough for all the trucks going through, so it would get caught on trucks going through and be hot, and the street light, the traffic lights would actually be dragged down the road. You know, so then they would go bring them, put them back up, put different parts, and then MDOT said, we're gonna put a whole new system in, which they did. But part of the process is that the town will maintain it.
So this has nothing to do with actually fixing, like, streetlights that go, I ask this because Library Street streetlight happens to be out on the corner again.
Okay, so,
I only noticed because I was looking to see if snow was falling, and I was like, oh, our streetlight's gone, I can't tell.
yeah, we will get the number of that, and call it in again. There's a new web-based process that's set up. I will say that getting the streetlights fixed now does take longer than it used to.
So is that part of the contract then, that they?
That's part of the contract.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
that's
So
what I was wondering.
if 10 streetlights or 50 streetlights are out, that's part of the price that we pay. They're all supposed to be fixed, but it has been slower the last 2 years.
So this additional $2,100 is just for traffic lights?
That's for the traffic light, yes. But you can, once they come in, there's only a couple companies in the state, and they're down in Southern Maine.
Yeah.
So then you've got all the travel time, they get up here, and then they need all the parks. So you can pay $500 or $600 just for a trip.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right, councilors, any questions or comments on street lighting? Everybody good with that budget? We cut that, we'll hear about it.
No, we need streetlights.
Alrighty, I was kidding. All right,
I know. I'm cutting them on Millcourt.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah. Most people down there are scared of the dark, but down there they're scared of the light. All those in favor of streetlight budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and that passes.
So the next budget is the airport budget. The airport budget is on page 35. The airport budget has an increase going up to $26,797 of $4,483. This is an increase of 20%. And this increase is in the contractual, in terms of dealing with the snow removal as well as several other projects that need to be done there. Now, I've told Steve Vance if he's getting another person, that he needs to fit the airport plowing in, which will significantly reduce the additional contractual work that's done with the loader and other equipment there.
How is he supposed to do the plowing at the airport if we're adding a person to help him with the street plowing?
Correct, but we're hoping that we can add in the airport too. This is something we talked about, because what's happening is in the big storms, the equipment that they have at the airport is just not set up for that. You need a truck to make, a pass.
So you need something with a wing plow and plow and everything else
to go through.
and then they just do the cleanup
Correct.
afterwards?
Correct.
Okay.
And that will save a lot of money. So they would have to go down to the airport. We'll have an additional person, and it's hoped that that will work.
So they're not plowing everything around the airport, they're just taking a couple passes
Yes.
on the runway to
Yes.
open it up, and then they go
Yes.
through and
Yes.
clean it up and do with it there?
Otherwise, this cost just keeps going up
Okay.
due to the
Yeah.
funky storms that we've had.
Okay.
Pete, you had a question?
Well, I have a question only because I'm new.
Yeah, right, you're supposed to ask questions.
And I will be doing this next year.
You'll be asking a lot of them, I can promise you.
So my question is with the airport, is there income that comes with the airport? I'm kind of curious as to why there's a budget for the airport coming to the town.
There is some income for the airport. There will be much more income when we actually have our own hangar.
That's what I was wondering
Yeah,
about. 'Cause we're
which is a
connected to
few
the
years
hangars.
down the road, but then you can really generate income. Whereas now, there are a number of hangars that are on property that the town owns, so we have leaseholders, so everybody leases property from the town for their hangar. And so those costs were set many years ago, and to entice people here, the costs are very low. To be competitive with all the other airports, so they're paying a few cents per square foot. So if you up that too much, we won't be able to, entice new people here. So at that point, we also have a contract with Curtis Air in which they rent some of the town's, or did rent the town's older buildings, and now they're renting the land for for their projects for the storage of the aircraft that they have contracts on to house at the airport. And so we have income from that. So the income for the airport is in the other part of the budget, which is the revenue sheet that folds out. So the income for the airport is excise tax, $1,726. So all the aircraft that are housed at the airport have an excise tax and a registration fee. The registration fee goes to the state as well as the aircraft monies. Then we get those back. There's also airport income of $5,642. And these are both reasonably conservative, but pretty much on target. So that's 5,600, 1,700. So when you add those together, you have 73,300, which goes against the airport budget. Now the airport budget,
73,000.
what did I say?
73,000.
Oh, no.
7,300.
Way to go, Lynn.
Wow, we're really doing
Budget
good.
problem solved.
We'll take that number.
Yes, it's 7,300. So,
Is that the lease payments, the 5,600 is the
yes,
lease payments?
yes, for all of the space for the hangars, and then the one hangar, older hangar that's rented out. So, the airport budget has gone up a bit the last few years because there's more use and there's more items that need to be fixed. It's mostly the snow removal that's the issue. We used to have a contract when I arrived in which S&G had all the snow plowing. They also had the airport contract. It was over $12,000. It was at that time paid for by the FAA. And MDOT. That program was cut, and so none of the airports got reimbursed for the snow plowing at the airports back in the mid-2000s. And so the town had to pick it up. And so we were lucky enough to get a grant, so we get the snow removal equipment updated from what we had, which was interesting equipment that no one had ever seen for a while. Very old equipment. And so we got that updated, and that all worked out well until you started getting all these funky storms, and different people would do the work, and so now it's very expensive.
So that's what I'm looking at. We got hangars that are gonna be coming in. And we have a very select few that are using the airport, and there's a lot of maintenance and plowing and upkeep of the runway for these small number of people. So looking forward, is there a way to put a maintenance fee for the people that are using this?
So they say that the number of travels, or the number of, they call it espionage, is around 23 to 26,000 trips that come in during the year. So the airport is used by all the people that come in for the mechanic work, for the recreational, for the business aspect, beyond those that have the hangars, which are few. And so what you're thinking of is some sort of
Well, there's
fee.
just quite a bit of use for,
It's a lot of use.
and there's very little income by the looks of it.
Well, if you charged them $1 every time they landed, it would cover the entire budget.
Oh, yes, it would, because there's an extreme amount of use there.
Well, I'm wondering if we can actually increase the lease payments for the different hangars that are there and the other parts that are leased by whoever, because Caleb was saying that there's a huge demand and there's people chomping at the bit waiting for these hangars to go in. So, you know, if you have a big demand, you can raise your price. If you don't have a lot of demand, which it sounds like that was the case to begin with, we went in and lowballed it to get people to come. But, you know, do we have the ability to like raise the rents by 10%? I mean, that's only another
I was just thinking, we don't
$500.
have the ability to have the upkeep for the equipment. We don't have any equipment to really take care of the airport. So why not assess some kind of a maintenance fee to people that use the airport or are coming and going to the airport to help try and get some equipment so they actually have something to do their upkeep with? In the long run,
we can
I'm not
look at
talking,
that.
it's not something that happens.
Right.
Do we,
We can look at that.
Caleb runs his business out of the airport.
Yes.
And you have a contract with.
He's beside the airport, but he's right there.
Okay. So, you know, to kind of feed off of what Peter said, if we can charge a little bit more for, or something for, you know, landings and takeoffs or trips in and out, is there a way to, you know, put that into a, you know, a trust fund for, you know, future equipment or something like that, you know? Even if we don't offset the budget, you know.
I don't know why we couldn't.
All right, so
Makes
we
sense.
can
Let's say
make a note
50%
to
goes
look
to
at
the
that.
operating budget, and then 50%
Yeah.
goes to the,
Yeah.
cause that, if it were like if there were a way to track who's using the airport, which I'm sure there must be, and invoice them monthly for the number of landings that they make, or, well, if they take off, they gotta land, but, the number of times they use the airport, and say it brings in $25,000 a year, if that's the middle of the road of the number of trips. If half of that went to maintenance each year as far as the snow removal costs, and then half of it went into an equipment fund, that'd be $12,500 you'd be setting aside for equipment every year. That might accumulate faster than you'd actually break down your equipment, because if it's just snowball plow equipment, it's only getting used
When it's
what,
snowing.
4 months at a time, you know, for a short duration.
Yeah, it lasts a long time.
You know, and so you might want to have it be so you have the flexibility to utilize it either as one or the other, rather than just saying that
At
it
a
all
certain
goes
point,
into
yeah.
equipment.
All right, I can seek some guidance from MDOT regarding this and the airport users group. Now, all of the individuals that own the hangars that are on the town's airport, so they have a lease. Those are long-term leases. There is a mechanism in all of the new leases that we've negotiated, which is almost all of them, that the fees can increase. There is
But some are set.
there's only one that is a lengthy 40-year lease, which does come up shortly. And then that one should be void, and then the proper, what they say is the proper lease agreement can then be negotiated with that individual.
You know, does Curtis Air do, you know, run the airport for the town, or do they just do maintenance and repairs?
He maintains the airport so that he's doing the daily items, and then I do all the capital and bookkeeping and the financial part, the grants and
Sale of
everything.
fuel and things like
Yes,
that?
the sale of fuel is part of his needs, what he does, because he owns the facility and puts the gas in, which is better because it allows the town to have a better chance to get the airport liability contract. That's one thing that the insurance companies don't like, when the town actually sells all the fuel. So Curtis Air sells the fuel and owns the facilities and has to keep them up to date. Of course, we get inspected all the time, and the town's insurance comes out, so we have to run out to make sure everything's okay for his stuff too. So you all need to work together.
Well, I don't have any other questions about this budget, but I do think that we need to investigate being able to charge a trip fee or a maintenance fee or whatever we're gonna call it. Because it is very limited use. Not everybody has an airplane and can use, not like the library, anybody can walk in the library and you know, it's not accessible to everyone. It's not a facility that's accessible to everyone. So
I don't think
it's
I don't
fair.
think that's an unreasonable cost either. I mean, if you
No.
make it unreasonable, they're gonna go to Waterville, they're gonna go
Right.
where, but I think that's, any person, reasonable person would say that's not an absorbent amount of money, so, and if you can set that equipment money aside to cover that.
Yeah.
That's huge down the road.
I would think the only business that would be, most impacted would be maybe the skydiving.
Yeah, but
Because
even-
they take off and land so many times in one day, but, I mean, if you think about the fact that if they did 10 trips in a day, they're probably carrying 2 to 3 passengers, and it's pretty expensive to do it, you know, and it's only $10 a day, and their added costs, but it goes a long way to maintain.
Well, they could also offset that cost with their fees that they charge.
Yeah, they could add $1 per person or something,
Yeah.
but,
We make it reasonable, if that can be made reasonable, like you said, that would help go a long ways, and plus, I think most people are willing to pay that. I mean,
Right.
if it was $20 or
Yeah,
$30,
well, that doesn't
it's a
make
different
any
story.
sense.
And, you know, as part of doing the study or investigating, you know, what are other airports in the area charge?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
do we run afoul of FAA if we charge?
That's what we're gonna check into.
Okay.
Yes, I don't think we do, but I don't know of anyone that does this, so, we'll look into this and talk about how to generate income.
Yeah.
But it's
with
not
the
like it's
FAA and
it's
DOT.
not like it's a public airport like in Bangor, so you know,
Yeah.
the
Well,
people
it
in
is.
the community
Anybody
are really
can
going
come
there
in
to
and
It
fly.
is, but it's,
Anybody can come and land, you just have to.
It's an FAA-approved airport.
You're not gonna go down and buy a ticket, get on the plane and go
No.
somewhere.
no.
Well, you
As
can
a
charge
resident
You
them.
make arrangements to get
You
on.
can
I
charge
flew,
them
I
a
flew to
plane.
Peterborough from
Oh.
there.
But as a general rule, I'm saying,
Of
so,
course, it was
I mean,
to see
so
a
that,
lawyer from my-
it's just a way to look into, start generating something to try and, for the upkeep.
Well, my thinking is that this snow removal equipment's only gonna get more expensive as time goes on.
Yes.
The sooner we do that, the better off we're gonna be if we can get it, buy it, and maintain it for a long period of time, because none of that stuff's going down anytime quick.
Yes, and you have to follow the FAA and DOT requirements for the equipment, so, when the equipment arrives, it's better than anything the town has.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the town can eventually use it.
Well, I was
You
thinking,
can after a certain period of
I
time.
was gonna say, because there's dual purposes, like if you get
Yeah.
a front end loader with a big snow blower on it, you can use that front end loader during the summer for other things.
We would absolutely love to. It runs afoul of the FAA requirements in which if there is equipment purchased for the airport, it must stay at the airport unless there is a civil emergency.
Ah, okay.
So if we have a big emergency, windstorm or something in which everything's shut down,
Flood
we'll
of
go get the
87.
equipment.
I got you.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it was quite interesting when the new loader arrived, because it came through town, and it was massive, because it had to follow the requirements of the FAA and MDOT. So it had a long trail of men in pickup trucks following it down to the airport, and everybody was surrounding it, all excited. It was the biggest loader in town, it was like a Chimbro loader, for a big job. So everybody was rather envious of it.
The thing is, people see something like that, that's maybe in the 70s, 60s and 70s, and they go, oh, well, no wonder our taxes are so high, we got blah, 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 blah,
We
blah.
had
They
to-
don't,
we
not
had to-
realizing
we had to
that
answer that, too.
there's ties to all this stuff.
We did explain that out quickly.
Well, that fee too could go to covering crack sealing too, right? It doesn't have to be just snow removal, because when we have to do the sealing of the cracks, that's not cheap either.
No, it isn't. We're fortunate, there were a couple of gentlemen who ran their own independent business that could do crack sealing properly, that just did it out of the back of their trucks, but everybody retired, and so now we have, one of the few companies in the state doing it. It's more expensive, but we do need to do it.
Okay.
All right, anybody have any other questions on the airport budget? I'm okay with it, if everybody else is. Okay, now, hearing any since you're ready to vote, all those in favor of the airport budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that budget passes as written.
So the next budget is recreation, which is on page 36. The recreation budget comes in at $64,003. It is a decrease of $1,871, or a decrease of 2.8%. And when we go through the recreation budget, just like all the others that we do, we look at the costs, and the costs were just down in 2019 and 2018, so that was good.
Catherine, if the pay raises are not included here, are they going to be, trying to figure out how to phrase this. So if there's an $11 job, $11 an hour job listed here now, it's gonna become a $12 an hour because of the change in minimum wage.
Yes.
We then have $12 an hour jobs, do those go down to 13?
Some of those do not have to go up that much. We work that out once we find out who the staff members that are coming in and what their requirements are and how we can meet that. It doesn't necessarily mean it will go up $1 for some of those. It depends on their qualifications.
Some of them could go up.
Yeah, this is just, yes, some will go up. Some will go up 50 cents, some will go up $1. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be $1. And so this is just an example. And of course, this is an example in the frozen budget for this year where they're paid, except for the fire department because they're on call. Everybody else is hourly or salary, and that is in a separate account. So this could be totally different if we found people that could do several things.
Right.
You know, then you negotiate on a price that's reasonable with them on what they, would work for. That would be reasonable.
Do you have what the income is for the rec department?
Yeah, for the rec department, I'll flip over
I keep
to.
asking you this. Is there a
That's
place in
okay.
here that I should be looking at?
Yes, that's okay, I can look them up. There are a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet that is on 11 by 17 paper that is around page 2, right after page 2 in the budget under tab 3. And so recreation is listed on the second page. And we have a few accounts. We have the registration, we have fees that we get from the state for recreational vehicles, which are put toward the recreation budget, and that will be estimated $888. Boat excise that comes back in most towns is placed against recreation budget. So that is estimated at $4,447. And then the recreation program fees is estimated as $8,311. So you've got $13,000 in fees, which we should make, unless we change the whole structure. And the swimming pool committee has yet to meet.
So we don't have anything back from them as far
Correct.
as fees
Yeah.
goes going through or not?
Yeah.
Wasn't there supposed to be a recommendation
Yes.
from them back to us
Yes.
after that whole
Yes.
thing?
Yeah.
So I'm a little perturbed that that hasn't happened because they wanted input on it and there's no input on it now.
So are fees in line with other towns? So we're like
We did
staying
do
comparable?
yes. The recreation department did a study of the places that they could find if there were a pool. There aren't a lot of pools in the state of Maine. So you may have some towns with that are smaller and some towns that are bigger instead of all towns approximately in our size category. So you use the pools that were available, and yes, there were.
Well, like our fees for like softballs and the different functions that happen during the summer, those are all in line, like we're not well below,
We might be below now because we haven't raised those for a while. That's on the list to check into. Those are not in the actual budget themselves. They're in the enterprise account. So they're off on the general ledger, not as part of the budget, not run with tax dollars. So the amount of expenses that we have cannot be above what the revenue is. So you have to balance those out. And so each of the sporting activities has its own account, because that's how the town came in to work with everybody to have all the independent little volunteer groups turn their money over to the town. We said we would keep it in a separate fund for each sport, so people felt comfortable with that.
so they pretty much can't spend, unless they don't have it, they can't spend.
Correct. The only one that runs into issues is football, because the equipment is so expensive. And so there's a lot of extra fundraising. We do have a concession account, which does quite well some years, and they will use the concession money to supplement the football account.
Yeah, there was a little kid running around with a football helmet at the football games, doing a collection for food. But that's what I was thinking when it's listed as rec, but that's not included in rec.
Correct, they're all.
So what's specifically in the rec?
In rec specifically is the summer program. So it would be
So
the
it'd be the
swimming
pool.
pool, the arts and crafts, they have a little tennis or a little basketball program. They can have some other activities besides arts and crafts. It was always hoped that this would expand out for, senior citizens and some other items, but we do have a part-time recreation director that is managing a massive amount of volunteers and programs, so that it hasn't expanded beyond the sports and the swimming with the little program during the summer.
So I'm trying to pick out what it actually costs to operate the pool.
Well,
There's the pool director, there's the lifeguards, there's just what's actually listed as pool chemicals. That's not including any of the FICA, unemployment workers comp or anything like that. I'm just kind of overlooking that right now.
Yeah, the last time I calculated it, it cost, and I haven't done it for 2 years, it cost $130 for to have the 4-week swimming lessons, but it was seen as a life safety item, and there's no way we could charge $130.
No. I'm just trying to see what
Costs.
out of the rec department, how many of those costs are attributed to the pool is what I'm trying to get.
Okay.
So I pulled out the pool director, the
Mhm.
lifeguards,
Yes,
the pool chemicals because it's specifically listed.
yeah. There's a
Under electricity, I said the bathhouse, the pump house.
Yeah, the attendants there, if they are combined with arts and crafts, it would be half of that.
Well, I just
Sometimes the
left them off.
attendants, the bath attendants are separate.
Okay, I just assumed they were arts and crafts.
Yeah.
And then water sewer, I'm assuming that's water
Yes,
for the pool.
that's for the
And
pool.
the bathhouse, and then CPR, first aid classes, pool operator training, $715. So adding all those up, it's about $23,888 to operate the pool,
Mhm.
and that's being generous.
Yeah, and we
not
have-
counting all the
Right,
labor
with
and.
all these other miscellaneous
Right.
items that get added in too.
Is that telephone fee strictly
Yeah,
for the pool?
That's strictly for the pool.
All right, we'll add in another $185. But do we have an idea what the pool revenues are?
So the pool revenues
Yeah,
were
we're-
on that spreadsheet, which was estimated as
I didn't see anything on pool, I saw boat program fees and recreation.
Yeah, and the recreation program fees is all of the programs, mostly the swimming.
That's mostly swimming?
Yes.
Okay.
So 8,311, but there are a few people that take the arts and crafts and sign up for the basketball and et cetera. So the last time I calculated it, it was quite expensive.
So that's a gap of $15,000 is what it actually costs
Oh,
us
Run the
to operate and run the pool.
Oh, yeah.
And that's on the low end of things.
That's at the low end, yes.
So, just kind of circling back as to, maybe this is another conversation that we need to have about whether or not to have a pool fee. Maybe that's a separate conversation than when we're looking at our budget here, but that's something that we can't be ignoring as far as that goes.
Well, especially if you're gonna argue the fact that there shouldn't be because we pay for it in our taxes.
Yeah.
Well, we pay for the theater, and we still have to pay to go to the theater.
That's another big discussion coming up.
No, it's all night.
But you still have to pay to go
It's
in there.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
No, you have to pay for the library.
The Pinnacle,
Library.
you have to pay for the Pinnacle. I mean, that's also covered, so I don't see that being.
Yeah. Anyway, I just kind of want to put that out there. But I mean, a lot of this too, aside from, cutting programming like arts and crafts, tennis, I mean, that, I'm assuming it's a net game and that it costs us more than $288 to, that we generate more than $288 back to the town through tennis lessons.
The smaller
assuming.
programs, for example, the field hockey, the fee is in there, but sometimes the individual just volunteers their time.
Okay. Anyway, I'm fine with this budget. I mean, it doesn't look like there's anything, if anything, it's gone down since last year. I think we've already established that we want to keep the pool open. It's just a matter of, how to pay for it. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on the recreation budget? Okay, not hearing any, since you're ready to vote, all those in favor of the recreation budget as written, please signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. And I just have that, so that passes.
So the next budget is the Water Enterprise Fund, which although it's in here as a department, it is an enterprise fund so that you can't spend more in the expenses than you bring in for the revenue. And so on page 47 is the Water Enterprise Fund, and we contracted with all of our associates to do a review of the water department, which was very good because they pointed out quite a few items that could be improved, so that was very helpful. And at the end of the month, in November, they're going to look at the sewer and water billing, which I think would be helpful too. So we put into the budget that Annalise, the individual vice president at all of our associates, had recommended as the basic budget that a water department of our size and number of clients should have. Now, that does not necessarily mean we're going to be able to increase this up and spend all this, but it's in here in case we do. So the budget is listed as $613,824, an increase of $183,092, or 42.5%. Now, I don't see the water rates increasing 42.5%, but we have put the budget in for the amount that all of our associates state is the proper amount. I put it over into the revenue side, and this would be a big study that will take 3 or 4 months to go through, starting at the end of this month, because the hours will work out for the work they're doing at the maintenance so they can switch over and start working on the billing part. So this is in here in case there is an increase of some nature. Any increase has to be approved by the town council after public hearing, has to be approved by the PUC, there's paperwork that has to be filed, has to be justifiable. So at this point, this is what a real water department is viewed by all of our associates that works with, I think, 11 different water departments.
Are there specific things in this recommended budget that we've been neglecting? You know,
I think a lot of it is the chemical use. We had the proper chemicals, but we were not putting them in it as efficiently as we could. So we actually are able to reduce some of that. So that was something that came out of this that was helpful. I mean, the water was safe and everything. It was throughout the budget. I had to increase the insurances a bit. It's the materials and the supplies, the maintenance type items, and of course, the payroll, because there should be more people, which nobody can contest, but can we afford it is the issue. I mean, to do all the work that needs to be
we've not
done.
had any applicants, have we, for the other
We haven't
position?
advertised, have we?
We did advertise and for superintendent, and no, several times we didn't. I think for regular people that would work in the water department, we can hire people. We have one person that we've elevated as they took over and have done a good job with all of our associates. We have another person working part-time to full-time to help out.
So I'm seeing that I have last year's, and the water was 437.32. And so what is different that we haven't been doing that's adding around $200,000 to the proposed budget?
More in the payroll, and all of our associates have indicated that if we were to go and hire their company, they pay their people a higher amount than the town does. And that's for retainage and because they're sending them to different locations. The equipment lease purchase for the excavator was a new account last year. It's more maintenance throughout the budget. And I can pull out last year's.
That's a matter of if we increase the maintenance, then we have less emergency rates, and just to maintain the system then.
Yes, they found a number of items that needed to be fixed, so it was good that we did hire them. There are items that you could go in the plant and would never know unless you pulled things apart. And we had an electrician that came in that did that.
Would it be cheaper to just contract out
that's where we talked to all of our associates, and this budget that they increased it to would address a contractor.
Instead of us
Correct.
employing people.
Yes, yes. They would likely hire the people that we had and employ them.
So does that mean the salary line would go away in this budget? Or would it be replaced by a contract?
It would be replaced by a contract. So let's say we.
But it would be the same fee?
This is the budget level that they indicated would cover a
And
regular
a contract.
maintenance and a contract, so that we would be covered. You would just change your accounts around.
So this here is what Annalise, so we went, when Scott left, we went to Oliver Associates and said, help us, because we don't have anybody in charge. And they came up with this budget and said, this is what the budget should look like. So there's added maintenance in it, there's also added payroll, because if we ask them to continue managing it for us, then we don't have a payroll person per se, but they have different people that they hire to do it. And they do the management part of it.
There's a lot of debt service in there too. though.
Oh, yes, there
There's a lot
will
of
be.
reserve spending as well for the standpipes on the back. There's, well, there's 80, 90, what's another 50,000.
Well, God knows we need to replace pipes so that our roads can.
Oh, my
be fixed.
goodness, yes. Right now.
I'm so tired of Library Street's pipes bursting and then our road is crap again.
Purchase power supply pump stations, that's just electricity to run the pump stations?
Yes,
Okay.
this is very high, and we did check into that, and it's not inefficient, it's just very expensive, because it's running all the time.
Right. Well, you know, people like to have water come out of the tap.
They do.
Turn it on.
Oh, you folks that dig wells, I just can't stand
Well,
it.
no, I can tell you from experience this summer when our well pump quit, you turn the tap and nothing happens.
Nothing happened.
Makes your heart stop for a minute, like.
Certainly does.
We had camp,
Yep.
yeah. That was us at camp too.
So there's a slight increase in the depreciation, and they thought that we weren't spending enough money on the standpipes, that was a major increase.
The two
So it's
60,
payroll and the
60,
standpipes.
65.
Yeah.
What lines are those?
Yeah, those lines for the standpipe is,
Second page.
70, 05, 60, 60, and 60, 65, so it's near the end of the budget.
Oh, yeah, those are huge
That was huge.
compared to last
So
year.
that's the main part, and then payroll. And then there's a few increases throughout, like maintenance distribution, which is 15-25. In treatment, which that's where the maintenance part increased this year. And under 1055, materials and supplies for distribution, it's distribution.
That's your
So
point.
on, what is involved with the
Okay.
60, 60 and 60, 65 reserve standby?
So
What
the
does that
town,
entail?
yeah, so the town has funding, enough funding to do the painting of the outside,
Oh, so this is upkeep?
yes, of one of the standpipes, and we can finish the whole job from the beginning to the end, hiring the engineering company, doing the RFP, and then doing the actual work. But then our money will be gone, and we will have saved that up over the years, so that was a small amount that we would budget each year. But then there's work that needs to be done inside, there's another standpipe to paint, and so Oliver Associates said that we need to, budget more robustly for this. I'm not saying that that would be the amounts that we would put in, because there's not gonna be a 49.5% increase in the rates.
So we have to hire and have engineering done to paint the outside of the standpipes?
Mhm.
What do they say, like
It's
X
the
number of gallons of paint?
It's the it's the RFP for the proper use. Do you remember when we had to do the RFP, and we got some help doing this, to have the inside of the water tank taken care of, and it actually was swimmers that went in and did that.
I remember that.
I do.
That was
They
crazy.
came from Texas, didn't
Yeah.
they?
I'm not crazy.
But we did have to have the bid specs looked over. Now, the one good thing with all of our associates is that we've tried to push this into the work that we're doing now, so we can get it done and not have to pay anymore.
Well, I kind of, I look at this as that, and personally, I'm not a water rate payer either, but personally, I think that, you know, if this is the professional assessment of what the robustness of what our budget should be in order to take care of the system that we have with future needs, then it is what it is. And if we choose not to fund it to that portion, it needs to be with the understanding that later on down the road, a lot like our roads, we're gonna fall short of needing to repair something or paint a standpipe or replace pipes on Library Street or whatever the issue might be.
I think-
When we hired them, we said, tell us what we need. They said, this is what you need. So,
When was the last time we had an increase in water or sewer rate?
Been about, what, 6 years?
2009, which we'll never forget.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We had the lowest sewer rate in the state of Maine at that time. It was set in the 70s. The water rate, I think, had increased maybe 20 or 30 years before that and was very low, but not the lowest. So we went up to still below average.
I mean, it's 10 years
Yeah.
later, you
and
know?
then one other thing that costs as much as it did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's such a complicated, time-consuming process that upsets people. You know, people will spend more time on their water bill, which is very small compared to their tax bill.
Right.
You know.
But I mean, if we can explain it to them and say, this is the budget going forward, and that doing an increase like this now means that there will be better maintenance, there will be better, you know, we will have the assets available in order to do and take care of the system. You know, it's like buying a new fire truck and then not putting any money in to maintain it. It's like,
You know,
why would you?
If you, it's a matter of, I agree with Heather, it's a matter of trying to present it the right way. As an enterprise fund, you can still create a reserve, can't you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we
So,
have one for
You know,
the standpipe.
even if you say,
Take
you know,
a
we
shot off.
increase by, 10%, you know, if that's what we say. And 5% of that goes into the reserve, you know, for future needs. At least you're explaining to people that, you know, it's not all, you know, right now, it's for the betterment of the system.
Yeah,
The thing of it is, what a lot of people, and I think your tape shut off, but what a lot of people don't understand is, and they forget, and I understand, I get it, is that we had a huge recession. From 2005 to about 2011, we didn't have squat for money, period, end of story. And a lot of these smaller projects especially got put on the back burner, with the understanding when the money came back around, we would fix it and set up a mechanism as where we can to at least ensure that in the future we don't get clobbered as bad, because there will be another one someday.
People don't remember that.
People forget that. And this is part of that deal, is what it is.
Too. So, I mean, if your last rate increase was in 2009, that's smack dab in the middle of that. So, people just felt like they were getting hammered from all the way around. But at the same time, you can only limp along just so long before.
That was the only way that we had to raise the rates to a certain level that
Couldn't get any
more
loans.
sustained the town, so then that we could also qualify for the grants and the low interest loans, because if you're not helping yourself, you can't go to the
can't throw your
federal and
hand
state
out.
government and say,
Right.
look, we got the lowest sewer rate in the state of Maine, we want some money, and
They
they'll
wouldn't give it.
Well,
say,
this is
no,
the
you
same-
need to,
Same
you know,
thing.
charge an appropriate amount.
I've told Catherine this story, and I won't mention who it is, but I've said it before, and I know you've heard this before. First year I was on this council in 1997, I got a phone call from a neighbor, and I won't say who it was now, but he was complaining because they were putting new water meters, and he had one on his mobile home. And he said, look at that. He said, I got a bill, and it's $59 for 3 months. And he said, that's ridiculous. I said, don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And that was when all my kids happened to be home at that time. And I brought that bill in for 6 months, and it was $753 for water and sewer. And after that, he didn't have too much to say after that. He got kind of quiet. Because he asked me if I had a leak, and I said, no, that's what an average bill is seven people taking showers and using water, and it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at this and, we asked an expert to tell us what we need, and this is what they said we need in order to, I don't think any of us know the ins and the outs of the system, and I guarantee there might be one other person in town that might know the ins and the outs of this system, but I don't think any of us know, and I think that having all of our associates look at it and give us their estimation is as close as we can get to coming up with a good budget for that, or an accurate budget for that. We ask Steve, what do we need to budget for the roads, and we trust Steve, and we ask Donnie, what do we need to budget for the you ask the experts, and then you have to go with what your experts are telling you.
Well, my biggest thing is like I said before, with the recession, everybody forgets that. This way, I'm thinking that by the looks of this, you may not, because like I said, there will be another recession someday. Maybe we won't get caught as flat-footed as we did last time. We never saw that one coming. And that, like you said, that you can still, even though it's an enterprise fund, you can still set up accounts to put money in so that you can budget a certain amount to cover this in the future, and like Howard said. And I think that's the smart way going ahead with that, because I got a funny feeling that if we don't, and something else happens 5 years down the road, we're going to be looking at a lot more money than we're looking at now.
So
They're the experts in the field.
So the increases in the chemical treatment to do this properly are the most expedient way, and to do the proper flushing and all of the distribution items that have increased, those are all highly appropriate. The standpipe is a bit robust here, and they have indicated that.
If we wanted to cut something, we could cut out of the.
Yes, that's what it would be.
How much does it cost to redo one of the standpipes? Do we know what a job would be to do that?
We have almost $300,000, and it should not cost that much.
For one of them?
For one of them, the big one.
So we already have, why are they saying to put so much more in it?
This is the way they do their budgets. This is the part that isn't actually necessary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think you'll find, we love all of our associates. They're a great firm. They do a wonderful job, but they do budget high.
Well, even if you cut that and only had 10,000 and 10,000, you're taking 60,000 out, which is a very small percentage of the total. When you look at it, that's only, those two items are only $80,000 of a $613,000 budget. It's a really small amount of the budget, but if there needed to be something that was trimmed, that you think that's
Yes,
where it
that's
would be?
the area, yes.
And how much?
That's debatable.
Did we have a set amount that we were putting in reserves for those two items before?
We were putting 4,000 in for each. Hey, it
That'll
worked.
take care of the
It
paint
worked.
brushes.
It worked.
Could live with that.
We have enough money now for one.
Yeah.
So the chances, are they both in the same condition? Has one been, maintenance-wise, is one ahead of another?
One is older than the other and needs to be painted first. We've
Okay.
got to the point where in a few years, this absolutely has to be done.
And do we have to have separate accounts for each, or can we just have a standpipe reserve account?
There is one
and then-
standpipe reserve, just because of the budgeting that's done for the PUC requirements, you list out each of your projects. So they're listed separately here, but when they go to the reserve account, they're in one reserve account.
So it's not like if we put money in one, we can't use it on the other,
No.
that one comes
No,
out?
it's combined.
Okay.
Is this to replace the standpipe or to paint the standpipe?
Paint it.
So
That's
can
a
we,
lot of paint.
Oh yeah, replacing it would be.
Paint your neighborhood for that.
so do you think we can, how much do you think we should cut those back by, Catherine? What would you be your recommendation?
I can talk to us, all of our associates about that.
All right, so do we want to wait and finish this
Yes.
budget?
I think that the budget is as it is, however, we're gonna do some trimming here.
Yeah.
We could pass it as it is right now and then trim it.
Understanding we're doing some trimming. And again, let's say you do a rate increase of 10%. Just because the budget is here, the revenues are on the other side, we're not gonna spend any more than what we get.
Can't.
We can't, it's an enterprise fund. And we can't anyway.
So what do you think, councilors?
As is, but further.
Subject to change.
Further study.
is.
Yeah, I think you need to discuss it with the full, you know.
Yes,
Can
yeah.
we
Full
speak?
council.
Yeah.
Well, it says here, you said it was an increase, overall, there was an increase of $83,492. Well, the increase in the,
It's 183,092.
oh, 100,
Yeah.
I made an arrow out of
I
the
wish it
one.
was 83.
Yeah.
I made an
Under
upwards arrow out of the one.
$100,000.
I was gonna say, well, that's the standpipe, but,
It's $183,000.
okay.
It could be like that, 7,300 was 73,000.
So if we
May have
went,
some of it that way, Catherine.
if we went back to the 4,000 for each of those, then that would only be, that would be 72,000 that could be taken off this budget, which would mean would be only an increase of,
110.
something like
Mhm,
that,
yes.
111,492. And I don't know what that brings the percentage down to, but,
How many years, so you said that you finally got enough to do fix
it's like a
one
40% decrease. in
They
the-
were working on it when I got here.
at the 4,000.
Yeah, but it was only 4,000. We've had good interest rates some years, interest rate is lower now.
I think that has to increase a little bit, but.
Yeah,
definitely
even if
it has to increase a little bit, because otherwise you're not gonna have anything to repair in the future.
It may be you know, we need to put this out to bid to see what the real price is going to be, because we might be pleasantly surprised.
You never know.
You know,
Good.
it's not a lot of work, you know, in that area.
I think there has to be an increase there, but certainly not 40,000 from before.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't have enough chairs to cover. Love would be wearing them.
Well, on top of the, you know, because we're gonna have the percentage of taxes are gonna go up quite substantially in the last 2 years, and then to raise the water and sewer rates on top of it.
I know,
I
yeah.
mean, you've got a lot of people on fixed income.
Fixed income.
I know.
A lot.
I hear it all the time, and they're not lying. They can't give you what they don't have. That's just the bottom line.
But at the same time, the state's put us in a bad predicament by increasing these minimum wages.
Oh, yes, it's gonna
It's
really
really putting
affect the
it-
small businesses.
It's really put it in a
Yeah.
bad light.
You can see a lot more pass-throughs like you see at Walmart. That's what you're gonna say, no matter where you're going.
Well,
So I mean,
the-
that's attributes to a lot of the.
Yeah, the people, the entities that were really affected by that are the small businesses, but it hits the municipalities.
But it hits us because we use the small businesses to do a lot
Yes.
of the contractual work, so.
Yeah.
We get a double whammy because we're getting it internally and externally.
Yeah, you can increase these rates by a certain percentage, but, you know, I mean, Medicare only is given a 1.6% increase next year. You know, so.
Yeah, and like the social security doesn't, you
Yeah.
don't get much of an increase in
No.
that, I mean. So that's where it is tough, but at the same time, you gotta have stuff for the future to fix, so definitely, I think they have to increase the 4,000, but I
Yeah.
don't know what to, but it definitely has to go up.
It's gonna be no getting around it, actually.
You know?
It has to go up because costs are going up.
The thing of it is, you can only go up so much, and then people just can't give it to you. We're gonna see that someday. Not yet, but it's coming.
Yeah.
All right, so you can pass that, and we will have further study.
Are you comfortable with that, Heather? Pass it as
I don't
is,
know why we
and
would
then
pass it
then
if
dig
we-
into it?
I don't know why we would pass it if we know that we need to fix it.
Right, but it means you've gone through, it's all preliminary, and
Alright,
that you need
So we'll just
to,
say we reviewed it then.
yes,
Yeah.
you reviewed it preliminarily, it's approved, however, the stamp act needs to be studied.
Yeah, because I think we can do.
Because the rest of it is reasonable.
Okay.
So the last budget, as we reach 8:30 here, is Sewer Enterprise Fund. The budget is $501,350. We've left the budget the same for 0% increase. We'll have to work out how a water rate increase will not affect the sewer, which we can do, even though they're based on each other. We got the premise that we've been told by 2 USDA officials that we should be able to reduce the sludge reserve and not have that $85,000 go to the sludge reserve, but we have to go through all the steps. So I'm waiting for the list of steps. When we got our USDA loan, we were required, because all of a sudden we had this large issue, supposedly, of sludge that hadn't been removed for over 30 years, and supposedly by the 3 engineering studies, the place was, the lagoons were just filled. This was going to cost a lot of money, so we headed to the federal government to get help. And then, after we went through the whole process and got a massive grant and everything, thought we were going to be spending a lot of money for sludge removal, which doesn't seem like something you want to increase your rates for. However, it was a responsibility of the town to not get in this predicament, so we had to do that. And then when the bids went out, we got really good prices. And when the contractor went in, they found we had hardly any sludge compared to the 3 engineering studies, 2 before I got here and 1 as I was coming in the door, because the engineer had to meet with me the first day I was here, about this really big study that was going to be over $1 million for the sludge removal and everything. And fortunately, it was only a little bit over $300,000, which then we already had the loan and the grant. And so the federal government said you can keep that and you can do sewer line repair, which was wonderful because there were so many sewer lines that needed to be repaired. And this was during the down economy, so the contractors didn't have a lot of work, there weren't many projects out there, and we had, I think, 13 projects that were completed on different sections of roads, with, at that time, from the Bangor office, the best project that ever got the most money's worth. I'm sure there's been one since then, but that all worked out really well. So that's where the $85,000 came from, because we were told you can never, you need to plan for your future so you don't come in and ask us for money again for sludge removal. So we were required to put $85,000 in a reserve, and we have around $600,000 now. We do not need any more money, and we would like to have that requirement be lifted. We tried that last year and we're told no. However, the administrations have changed, so we're going to go back, because we were told originally that after we had enough money, we could have that requirement taken out. So we're working on it.
So this,
So we would leave the budget the same.
this sludge reserve,
Mm-hmm.
that is in a bank account sitting somewhere getting interest.
Yes.
Does that interest go back to the sewer
It
department
stays
as income for them?
it stays in the reserve. That's a requirement when you have the reserves for a
The
purpose.
interest goes back
the interest
into the
has
reserve.
to stay in there. Yes.
So it's like, there's a lot of money sitting there.
It's doing quite good.
We can't use it right now.
Use it
Can't use it right now, but it's not going anywhere. That's the good news.
It's like the cemetery trust and everything.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is not make this payment, and then we can use this for other work, and we can use this for another low-interest loan and fix another pipe. And frankly, we should take a little bit out of the reserve too, get permission to do that.
I was just gonna ask about that. This 17% of our budget right there is
Yes.
that reserve item.
That's how we got the very low interest loan. We got all the grant money. You had one requirement besides all the regular requirements that the federal loans and grants had from the USDA. You had to, be in charge of your future so you didn't run, get into this problem again.
You future counselors see how much they tie our hands here and wonder why we don't have answers.
Well, you should have seen the paperwork on that project.
So Catherine, we have 2 people working in the water and sewer department right now.
Yes, we have the one plant manager who got elevated to run things along with all of our associates and my assistants. And then recently we've hired another person because there'll just be too much with all the plowing of all the areas for him to work alone this winter. So at this point, this is where the sewer budget lies.
Well, I'm fine approving this with the understanding that we're waiting for clarification
Yes,
on
and it's going to take a while.
So we're gonna end up having to pass this
With
Yes.
because we're not gonna have an answer before the
No, we
end of the
won't.
year.
They had to sent down to Washington DC, so.
So good luck with
this is
that.
going to
I'm
be-
not even gonna talk about the
We'll
budget.
hear about that in 2028.
Yeah,
Yeah.
alright, well, I'm fine with that.
All right, good. So-
Okay, we all good on the sewer budget? All those in favor, as pass it as it's written? Signify. Aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, nay? And I realize that's a huge budget too, but really, what are you gonna do? Like you say, if we can get that sludge removal reserve problem lifted, that would be huge.
And use a little bit of the money is there. That would, I mean, probably you could go just do it, but, with our luck, we would be audited, and I would, I'm always gonna follow the requirements.
Oh.
I would never not follow them, so.
All right, that is the last budget listed on here tonight. Is
Yes.
everybody all good with,
We had
adjourning?
additionals, but we're at 8:30, and once you
Yeah.
get in those, you get sucked in.
Yeah, I personally would rather
And they
do
should be
that.
discussed with the full council.
Yes.
I think so too.
Yes, those are important.
Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Don't you dare. We're all set.
So Heather, a quick question, Howard is not going to be at the finance committee meeting as an member, and the only item that we probably could discuss, besides, getting into everything.
We definitely gotta look
Would
at
be
the five,
the-
raise the
would be the
five.
additional.
We can't let that
Alright,
go.
is that
That would be
Thursday?
on Thursday.
Well, I forgot to put it on my calendar.
Otherwise, we're
I'm
gonna lose our
supposed to go to
volunteer
the
department.
Okay, that sounds that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, we'll cancel that one, okay.
I'm not sure why I didn't, I guess I was thinking because we were meeting tonight that we didn't have one.
so many meetings here where
Yeah.
we discuss things much more fully than in the past. All right, I'll try to
Alrighty.
see you tomorrow.
Great.